My name is Courtney Gilbert, and I'm the Curator of Visual Arts here at the Sun Valley Center for the Arts. The exhibition that we're looking at today is called Homefront, and it's part of a larger community-wide conversation that we're hoping to have about what our responsibility is as citizens during times of war, both in terms of contributions to the war effort and in terms of how we can help returning veterans reintegrate into everyday civilian life. The exhibition features artwork by 6 contemporary artists, along with a set of U.S. government-published posters that were made during World War I and World War II. The posters primarily come from the collection of the Wolfsonian Museum in Miami, as well as a local private collection. And they're interesting because they were published for a whole bunch of different reasons. In World War I, these posters were made as part of the first large-scale government propaganda campaign. And initially, they were aimed at persuading citizens of the importance of participating in the war. So they encouraged men to enlist, they asked people to conserve resources, they asked people to buy war bonds, to plant victory gardens. So for us, these posters were important to include because I think that they really they show a different attitude towards civilian participation in the war effort when everybody was asked to pitch in and everybody was asked to kind of take ownership of the war. One of the artists featured in the exhibition is a Ketchum-based photographer named Stephanie Fried-Perenchio. She's a documentary photographer who's able to capture kind of the realities that these families face on an everyday basis, both as they're saying goodbye and welcoming home husbands and fathers, and while they're gone, these incredibly strong women who are kind of holding families together for extended periods of time. Another artist who's interested in what happens to soldiers and their families, both during their deployment and after they return back to the U.S., is Monica Haller, who has worked with veterans groups around the country to produce a project that she calls the Veterans Books Project. And we have 7 books on display that come from that project, in which veterans are able to put together photos that they've taken, fragments of their journals, parts of their stories in order to kind of share what their experience was during deployment and then also upon returning home. Jennifer Carrite is an artist who's also concerned with the challenges that returning soldiers face, and she spent the last 6 years working on a project that she calls Soldier Stories from Iraq and Afghanistan. She works with veterans over the course of about a month, spending time interviewing them about their experiences. Sometimes she spends time with their families, talking to them about what it's been like to have their family member return home. So she works with the veteran to build what's essentially a stage set that she uses to create a photograph that merges a moment from the soldier's deployment with their everyday lives. So they're really about the challenges that soldiers face in integrating back into their everyday lives following their deployment. Chad Person is an artist he works in a bunch of different media, from like he's built these huge inflatable sculptures, he built a bunker in the desert, to these, what we have on display here, which are these beautiful, really precisely, delicately made collages. They're made from U.S. currency on canvas, and they represent kind of weapons of war, machinery of war, communications towers, battleships. And he calls the project Tax Cut because he, as a professional artist, he can deduct the cost of his materials from his taxes, so he deducts the actual cost of the currency that he cuts up to make the collages. We have 2 projects on display by an artist named Mazza, who is particularly interested in knitting. And one of the projects is a series of helmet liners that she, with a bunch of volunteers, knit and sent. They made one for every U.S. senator and sent them to the senators on the day of President Obama's first inauguration, both as a statement of support for soldiers and also as a request to bring them, as part of a larger request to bring them home. Allison Smith, she's been making work about historical reenactment and particularly the intersection between craft and war for quite a while. On display here, we have 2 bunting swags that Allison Smith made as part of International Orange, an enormous site-specific exhibition at Fort Point, which is just under the Golden Gate Bridge, that was held last spring in celebration of the 75th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge. And buntings, traditionally have been hung to kind of celebrate soldiers' homecomings, and they're usually, made in patriotic colors. Smith created buntings that were colored, they ranged in color from yellow to red, kind of with a lot of sort of that international orange color of the Golden Gate Bridge. And she's interested in them both as being celebratory and festive, but kind of creating a sense of urgency. The colors in some way correspond to the Homeland Security threat level colors of yellow, orange, and red. In addition to the exhibition in Ketchum, we also have an exhibition in Haley that features photographs by local photographer Matthew Hayes of participants in Higher Grounds programs for veterans. And then we're going to have on display some objects that are made by veterans who have gone through Higher Ground. We'll have quilts, photographs, and some woodworking. The center in Ketchum is located at the corner of 5th and Washington. We're open from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday and from 11 to 5 on Saturdays. The center in Haley is located at the corner of 2nd and Pine. It's open on Thursdays from 2:30 to 5. And the galleries are always free and open to the public, so I hope you'll come in and see the exhibition.